Boom, da-ba-doom, boom, da-ba-doom.
So I owned my own businesses for about 5 years. And then I realized I needed systems. I needed processes. I wanted collaboration, like working solo as an entrepreneur, making everything up, reinventing everything. And I decided to jump in as a business coach, as a franchise consultant, learn that role. And here I am 18 years later, one of the top consultants in the country. I'm blessed to help so many people achieve their own dream to own their own business.
Welcome to the Money Peach podcast, where we dump debt, save more, build wealth, and live life on our terms, not the bank's. What's up, everyone? I'm your host, Chris Peach, and I have a major problem with the financial world. You see, the banks are winning and you are not. But the good news is that's all about to change, my friends. Let's jump right in.
Alrighty, my friends, today, episode 144 of the Money Peach podcast, I have America's franchise expert. She's America's top franchise expert. I have Kim Daly on the show, and we've never had anybody come on the show to talk about franchising. And to be honest with you, I'm a little naive to the franchise world. I didn't know what it was all about. So doing some research on this, I actually got really, really excited. And I didn't understand how many of my daily activities in my life, the places I go to in my life, are all franchises. And so I thought it'd be interesting to bring on somebody who is an expert in this field, because maybe you are somebody that's looking for the next thing or looking for something to add to your life to bring in income. And maybe franchising might be that thing for you. So instead of me deciding I'm going to do some research on franchising and tell you about it, I just thought I'll bring on America's top franchise expert and have her tell us all there is to know about franchising. So Kim, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today.
Thank you, Chris. I'm happy to be here. Nice introduction.
Well, yeah, we practice it over here at Money Peach. Yeah, we practice in our introductions. So we bring in a lot of interesting guests on the show, and so we have guests from all different walks of life. And so this is episode 144. So 144 episodes. We've never once even mentioned the word franchise. Can you believe that?
That's
And
great.
so I don't even know where to start, but I have so many amazing questions, because I started looking into this going, wow, there's a lot of opportunity out there. Why aren't people talking about this? But before I jump in and start grilling you with all the questions for our listeners, tell us a little bit about Kim Daly, a little bit about your background and how we got to this
Daly.
podcast today.
I want to go right into your questions.
We're going to get there. We're going to get there. Don't worry about that.
Okay. So like when I was 5 years old, I decided I wanted to be a franchise consultant. And I mean, doesn't everybody?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I decided I was going to be a podcaster when I was 5 years old.
No. So I started out, I was on my way to med school. I answered a classified ad in the newspaper. It literally changed my life. It was for a franchise company. I worked for that company for 3 years instead of going to med school. And then I decided I wanted to be an entrepreneur. Once I got into this entrepreneurial environment, I was never going to work for anybody ever again. I made that commitment to myself when I was 25. And I'm a lot older than that now, and I am completely unemployable. I'm 48 now, and completely unemployable. And really, that's why I love what I do, because I help other people realize that same freedom. So I owned my own businesses for about 5 years. And then I realized I needed systems. I needed processes. I wanted collaboration, like working solo as an entrepreneur, making everything up, reinventing everything. It's exhausting and it's a lot of work, and you sort of have to fly by the seat of your pants and like always be on. And I decided to come back to my franchising roots. And that is right around the time when Fran Choice, the company that I'm actually like a franchisee of, was getting formed. And I decided to jump in as a business coach, as a franchise consultant, learn that role. And here I am 18 years later, one of the top consultants in the country. I'm blessed to help so many people achieve their own dream to own their own business.
Wow. So I didn't realize you've been around for 18 years in this business. So yeah, when I say I have America's top franchise expert on, I actually, this is you just back that up there. We have 18 years experience. So kind of a little bit of background here is, a lot of people that listen to this podcast, they're looking to increase their income. And so we've had side hustle experts come on. I've shared a lot of my story about starting my own business from the very ground floor, where there was no playbook, there was no support. It was just, grow it and figure out as you go. And obviously there's some coaching and some learning along the process. But one of the things I really like about franchising is your ability where you're not starting from scratch. Does that sound right what I'm saying there?
That's exactly what you're doing. There's two parts to investing in a franchise. One is that you're buying, to use your words, the proven playbook. Somebody else has already gone out there and figured out how to make money, how to market to find those customers, how many of those customers you're going to need to build a positively cash flowing business. They can train you and support you and mentor you. So you're getting that proven playbook. And the second part of what you're buying or investing in a franchise is the second part of what I just said, which is the leadership, the mentorship, the coaching. So the idea that you're in business for yourself, but not by yourself. There's a team of people around you who've been there. And if they have weathered other economies or weathered, we can't say other pandemics, but weathered other tough times, they have that endurance, they have that experience, that wisdom that can help them help you when it's your first time. And that is, you know, if you started a business from scratch, that learning curve that somebody else can give to you is pure gold.
So one of the things when I started thinking about a franchise system, I think of businesses that I already know are franchises. And I think the majority of people out there, when you say like, you know, McDonald's or Dunkin' Donuts or the UPS store, or maybe like Ace Hardware, those are obvious franchises. I think we all know there are franchises out there. And then, you know, if you go to do a quick Google search, it's like, oh, you want to get into McDonald's? $2 million, right? And so a lot of times I think, for me personally, I think, well, if I was ever going to get into franchising, it's much easier for me just to go start Money Peach, because I don't need $2 million to start Money Peach. And that's where it kind of ends. And I guess I was just so misinformed. So I think so many people who are thinking into franchising, maybe they don't realize the cost associated with it, the process. So that's kind of the where I want to go is I want to answer the questions that I have that I'm sure our listeners have as well, is starting off. I mean, let's just start off with the obvious question is, what kind of investment do people really need to have a franchise? I mean, is it $2 million across the board, or what does that look like?
Yeah, it's a great question. And no, the answer is you do not need $2 million. There are franchise investments that are $10, $20, $30,000. And there, of course, there are businesses that are $2, $3, $4 million. And this is in fact part of why I have a business, is to help people. When people come to me, Chris, they're typically in a state of career transition, or sometimes they're investors, real estate investors, or just looking to diversify their portfolio, looking to diversify income streams. They're looking for an opportunity, many times even a way out of corporate America. So they're going to keep their job. I'll use your side hustle word, and maybe build a franchise business passively kind of in the background until they're comfortable the business can support their life. And so before I can ever get to presenting options to them, I need to get to know them personally, professionally, and financially by taking them through a process and gathering this data so that then I can use it to build their model. And part of that is a financial assessment so that we can have an intelligent conversation about what a comfortable and safe level of investment for them would be. So money buys options, like my car. So the more money you have, the more options you're going to have. But lower investments do not equate to lower returns. Like, that is a myth that I love to debunk. If you've checked out any of my videos or my website, you'll see that I love to call myself America's franchise myth busting woman or myth buster, because I love debunking all the myths. I travel the country. I speak to thousands of people every year. And there's a lot of the same myths about, how franchisors don't care about your success and all the fees you have to pay. And I love to just help. I love to take it all. I'll take all the criticism and all. It's like the tone in which those questions are asked, and then help people get it. So they're like, oh, I was so misinformed.
So you said something there that just actually really got me thinking. So when you said the word passive, and to me, I had no idea that this could be a passive type investment. When I'm thinking franchising, I think of we have a mailbox at the UPS store. That's where I go and pick up our mail. And I see the owner in there 7 days a week. He's start to finish. So I'm thinking this is hard work. So the idea that someone could get inside a franchise passively, can you expound a little bit on that? Because that kind of that surprises me a little bit, and it interests me.
Yes. So you have to invest in the right type of business. Again, this is why I have a business myself to help lead people to those kind of businesses that actually do work when the owner is not there. So for example, let me give you an example. If you had, and I don't know, I don't work with Massage Envy, but I'm going to give you the example of Massage Envy.
Okay.
So if you owned a Massage Envy, what is the owner going to do in that business? You're not giving a massage, right? You're not, checking people in and out of the spa. I mean, you can hire somebody to do that, right? So most of the investors, I do work with like Supercuts, for example. That's a great example of a semi-absentee business. The average Supercuts owner owns 6 locations. So how are you going to be in 6 locations at once? You're not. That's because no one location needs the owner. In franchising, we use the expression, the owner is the CEO working on their business while the employees are working in the business. But to the point you made, there are franchise businesses like the UPS store where the franchisor says, we find that our best, most successful locations are when the owner actually is in the business. So when I'm working with a candidate, understanding the time commitment they want to put into the business, that is one of the factors that we will consider. Not every business allows you to start semi-absentee. Some require you to be full-time always. Some require you to start full-time. And then once you get things going, you can move to that semi-absentee or even absentee state. And then others you can start from semi-absentee right from the beginning.
Have you ever noticed when you've been helping people over the last 18 years, is it beneficial? Like, for example, Supercuts. Would it be somebody who has a little bit of a background or maybe was a stylist or a barber or somebody like that? Or somebody like in the travel business, if they're going to do a franchise in the travel business, maybe they were a travel agent. Does that matter? Does that help? Because I'm thinking if you were going to make your decision on what franchise am I going to go into, my mom's the travel agent, Jiffy Lube is franchise. Would it make sense for her to go, open up a Jiffy Lube or to get, you know what I mean? So I guess is the question I'm asking is, should people follow more of the finances or more of their passion of what they're interested in?
So prior experience is not an indicator of success in a franchise business. I actually have a video on with that exact. I think the video is called "Prior Experience Does Not Drive Top Performance in a Franchise Business." Excuse me. So oftentimes if you have experience, there's a couple of things. Number one, it's going to be hard for you to see value in paying fees to someone for something you might already know how to do. And probably the more important factor to that is if you already know how something should be done, you're less likely to be coachable. And following the franchisor's lead and becoming coachable is really one of the most important characteristics to success in a franchise business. So you do not need prior experience. And in some cases, I think prior experience could actually hurt you rather than help you. It's very counterintuitive. The vast majority of people that I work with absolutely do start with the belief that if I don't know anything about it, I can't run that. But once they get into the process, if they're willing to keep an open mind and ask questions, they'll be able to go meet other franchisees who are like, oh, I worried about that too. And then look at me today. I mean, all franchisors have training, very comprehensive training. Even a very simple business, like I work with the junk removal business. Have you ever heard of 1-800-GOT-JUNK?
Absolutely. I've used 1-800-GOT-JUNK. I didn't know that was a franchise also.
It's a franchise. Okay.
Yeah.
So we work with, we actually, franchise kind of single-handedly built 1-800-GOT-JUNK back in the day. We work with another junk business today. And that junk business has an 8 to 10 week comprehensive training program, 8 to 10 weeks for junk removal, right? So like people, you do not need experience. The franchisor is going to teach you, even in the simplest business, how to manage your business, run your business. In that particular business, I think a lot of that training has to do with recycling and repurposing what you're picking up, because that particular junk removal company is they repurpose and recycle almost 100% of everything they pick up. So I think that's where that comprehensive training really goes.
So one of the discouraging things that we've had entrepreneurs come on talking about running a business. And I remember one of the things that I heard, and it was like, wow, that was surprising to me. And I've heard this multiple times, is about 75% of startups will fail within 3 years. And so that's a scary number, especially if you're getting ready to start your own thing. Maybe like, you're going to start a social media company, or we've had somebody, start their personal finance service like we do. What are the, do you know off the top of your head, maybe not the exact numbers, but how is that working in the franchise world? Because I just start thinking about the franchises you just said, and I don't see a lot of these shops around my neighborhood that are franchise closing down. I feel like it's a model that's lasting longer than 3 years as far as startups. Do you have any kind of information on that? So if somebody was thinking, should I come over here and start my own business, or should I maybe do something in the similar field, but maybe do a franchise and have the support?
Chris, it's such an excellent question. And that's exactly the value proposition, right? That we're buying down the learning curve and we're mitigating the startup risks. So you're right. The staggering failure rate of entrepreneurship is very risky. But in franchising, that is not a statistic that we own. Every business that I would help somebody explore has to disclose their success and or failure rate in what's called a franchise disclosure document. So this is a legal document that the Federal Trade Commission mandates any business operating as a franchise must produce, and it has to be refiled annually, sort of like the prospectus of a stock, right? So
okay.
And a potential investor is entitled to really full disclosure about the history of this brand, the founders, any numbers that, any fees they're obligated to pay, but the success and or failure rate is also disclosed in that. So most of the businesses I work with have success rates, to your point, in the high 90s. But I mean, I don't want anybody to misconstrue it as an earnings claim. Like, certainly if you're looking for the success rate of a particular franchise, you should turn to their franchise disclosure document. That's where you would find that information.
So I'm gonna move into a little bit of how our listeners or people watching this can work with you, because I think it's a really cool model what you have. The way you have it set up, I like it's very, very little risk involved, which I think it's always good to mitigate risk. But before I jump into how people can get to know more about franchising and working alongside you with franchising, what is like I want to see like the plus and minus, the good and the bad. So I always say that, with every investment, there's inherent risk. With any opportunity, there's inherent risk. If the opportunity is really good, the risk is usually really high. If the return on investment is really, really high, then the risk is going to be really, really high. It's risk reward, right? This goes back to 5th grade. So to start off here, we all have this thing called an avatar in the business world. And so in your world, who's like the perfect avatar or the perfect scenario for you who do you get excited about when you sit in front of somebody that's getting ready to jump into the franchise world and you're like, oh my gosh, this is perfect? Who's that person?
I love anybody that has the dream to own a business. I mean, most of the time though, in order to really change your life, you have to have some sort of driving motivation. So people who are in career transition, who've already lost their job and now they're looking for the next hurrah, and they've felt the pain of being severed from their job and they think, gosh, I don't really want to go back and risk getting laid off again. That's a great candidate for me. Investors who are real estate investors are great candidates for me. People that are into infinite banking are great candidates for me. Just again, it depends. I love anybody that has the dream to want freedom and want to build income that they own and control. Is that good? I mean, anybody who wants to learn about franchising, really.
What about what kind of time commitment should people be looking at? Because again, I heard the word passive earlier, but I know there has to be some kind of time involved. But does it depend on the franchise the franchise you're looking at, or the learning part? What kind of time commitment should people be looking at, especially if they're going to be working with you?
Well, to explore a franchise, I can have somebody competent and confident to say yes to the business in about 6 weeks. So it's about a 1 to 2 month process from start to finish to get you to a yes. Certainly, if you're going to figure out that you can't afford the investment, or franchising really isn't the right thing for you right now, we're probably going to figure that out together in the first 1 to 2 weeks of working together. So that was the first question. And then the time commitment in terms of owning a business will just depend on the business and then, of course, on the owner. Some businesses, as we've mentioned, require full-time ownership. Some require semi-absentee. Semi-absentee typically is categorized as 10 to 15 hours a week once the business is up and going, right? And then full-time ownership is full-time ownership. But there are businesses that are designed to be semi-absent where owners still work them full-time because the owner doesn't have the confidence in other people, or maybe in their leadership skills, or they're just a little bit of a control freak and they can't let it go. And then there are other businesses that really, require full-time ownership, but the owner is so efficient in what he or she does that they figured out how to lower that full-time commitment to 20 or 30 hours a week and still maximize their returns. So it's so success in a franchise is like anything else. It comes back to the owner. And to the point you were asking before about the potential downsides. Well, the downside is failure. I mean, you can fail in a franchise, right? The location doesn't save you. The branding doesn't save you. The franchisor doesn't save you. Success and failure are owned by the franchisee, by you, the potential investor. And so again, this is another point why I have a business, is to help you while you're doing your due diligence to really make sure that you're thinking through what drives top performance. Many of my candidates come to the process more focused about failure, but we only get what we focus on. So it's an infinitely better question and way more inspiring conversation to go find the top performers in any franchise business and really understand how they think, what they're focused on, what they're doing to drive that result, because success leaves clues. So we want to role model what those people have done, to follow the people or to talk to the people who it hasn't worked out for. Number one, all that does is validate to the fear that everybody already has and probably will crush your dream unnecessarily. Right. And it doesn't tell you what you need in order to move forward. The interesting thing about top performing people in a business is, especially if they've been able to reproduce their result over a few years, there's a science to what they do that they can share with you. And that's what I get my candidates focused on, is learning to understand, where is the gas pedal in this business and how do I apply? If I apply that pressure, what result can I get? And when you're focused on winning and you have an abundant attitude and you come to work every day to do what you've committed to doing, I think the risks of failure become very, very minimal in a franchise business.
So I can only imagine 18 years experience in this business. You have some incredible stories of both some huge successes, but also some failures. And I want to get into that. But first, let me ask the audience this. Are you guys currently at one of the big banks, one of the big 4 major banks, or maybe you're at a bank and you're just not getting the level of customer service that you need? Well, the reason why is because you're a customer. Again, it's customer service because you're a customer. I am a huge proponent of credit unions. Credit unions, you are a member. The profits go to the customer or go to the big banks. They're profit-based. A member-focused is a nonprofit where the savings of a credit union go back into your pocket in the form of savings and higher interest rates in terms of your savings and lower interest rates in terms of borrowing money. If you have not checked out credit unions, go check out your local credit union. If you're in Arizona, I highly suggest you check out 1AZ Credit Union. It's the credit union that I have been a member of, not a customer, a member of for the past 10 years. I would never look back. I love being a member at my credit union. You get the personalized customer service that you deserve as a member, not a customer. If you're in Arizona, check out 1azcu.com. All right, Kim, so back to what you were just saying. I have a couple now questions I want to ask you in regards to wins and losses. Okay. I love stories of success, but I want to start off with, have you ever had somebody that said, I'm all in on franchising, and maybe they didn't go down the path that you had designed for them? And what did that look like? Because I want people to realize there's good and bad in everything in life. It's not all going to be unicorns and rainbows, is what I say. So what's a non-unicorn and rainbow story that you could share with us, just so people could get an understanding that this is not 100% guarantee. There is no guarantees. This is not a guarantee that you're just going to, sign a dotted line, get a franchise, and be uber successful.
Yes. And I have this full story in video form on my website, thedailycoach.com. That's my
okay.
We're
going to put a link in the show notes to that. So I want you guys to go and watch that as well, because again, it's important to understand the risk. But go ahead, Kim.
Okay, so I had a gentleman who on paper I would say was like a great candidate. So he was 20 years military, which means he can follow a process, right? With great leadership skills, typically developed in the military as well. He also came out and had a corporate sales background. And the business that I found for him was a very well-proven franchise that had a lot of local franchisees around him, including the very zip code where he lived. And I still remember to this day what he said to me when I presented the company. He said, because he would have to go to like another part of his area, and his perception was that the area that he lived in was a better demographic than a higher like income area than the area that was still available for this particular franchise. And he said to me, people in that area don't spend money like people in this area. And those are really the chilling, haunting words that 18 months later he made true. So he ended up saying yes to the franchise. And then 18 months later, the franchisor called me back and said, do you want to resell his territory? And of course, I knew that it was not the franchisor's fault why he was not successful, because this is and it was and still is one of the biggest franchise brands in America. So I said, 100%, I want to help you, find a new owner for that territory. I was very sad that he did not call me. I think he didn't call me because my candidates get to know that I am nothing if I'm not honest. And I'm pretty hardcore about accountability. And if you say you're going to do it, you need to own it. And people love to own their business when it's successful, right? But they don't want to own it when it's not successful. They want to blame something outside of themselves. In this case, the territory. In other cases, it's the franchisor and what you were owed and what you thought you were going to get that you're not getting, or things like that. So anyway, I was able to find another candidate for that territory. And this time the candidate happened to live in that territory. So he didn't have any of those preconceived notions that territory was not a great territory compared to other ones. That guy went on to become Rookie of the Year in the same territory that the first guy would have told you was why he couldn't get a positive result in the business. So it clearly shows you that there's so much more that goes into success than territory, branding, franchising. The mindset of the owner is one of the most critical factors to success. But Chris, isn't that true about anything we do in life?
Absolutely. So I have to ask you, and you could say, no, I can't tell you that. But as you were talking, I started wondering who was, what franchise was it? Are you allowed to say?
CertaPro Painters.
Okay. I've heard of CertaPro. Again, I didn't know that was a franchise. This is blowing my mind because there's all these companies out there that I've actually used. Had no idea it was a franchise. Okay. So I like the story of someone being Rookie of the Year, but I also like you just sharing that here's what happens when you don't follow through. Here's what happens when you don't have the mindset. You just don't just jump into things, especially when they're big life decisions like this. But I know, Kim, there's somebody listening right here and they don't know where to start. I have somebody in my mind right now that I know they're kind of in a transition, and I know that they're going to love listening to this, and they're going to be wondering, I just don't know where to start. I'm excited, but I'm nervous. I don't know what field I should go in, but I want to pursue this. And so I really think it's cool how working with you, how simple it is, but how risk-free it is. So if somebody were to, get off this show right now, get off this podcast, and I'm going to have links to where they can get in contact with you. What does that process look like? Because I think it's really interesting.
Okay. So first of all, Chris, it's entirely free. Nobody ever.
Say that one more time. Entirely what?
It's entirely free. You don't pay me any money.
So that's huge, right? Because everything in this world costs money. So when I heard that the first time, I'm like, whoa, that perked my ears up. Okay. So I'm going to say this one more time. Kim just said working with her is entirely free. All right. Now someone's going to say, I don't get it. So
how?
Continue.
Right. Okay. So I don't work for free. It's just free for my candidates. So I'm like a recruiter for franchisors. That's the easiest way to think about it. So if I ended up matching you with a potential franchise with your franchise, then they would pay my consulting fee at the end of the process. So you never pay me any money. I am your trusted advisor. I am here to help the potential franchisee figure out what they can afford, what they're going to wake up and enjoy going and doing every day, what kind of people they want to create jobs and manage, what kind of life they want to live as an owner, and what kind of business is going to support all of their financial needs and wants and goals. So once we've outlined those characteristics, then I get to work and I go find what I believe are the best franchise opportunities out there. I come back and I make an introduction. And in fact, I equate the whole franchise due diligence process to a courtship leading to a marriage. Because like I said at the beginning, Chris, we are buying a partnership. That's what we're investing in. And so when people work with me, the dating relationship starts with a blind date. So we're going to do some speed dating, and I'm going to become your dating coach, and I'm going to teach you how to play the field and use franchisors. And it'll never be awkward for you because I'm going to do all of the breakup work. I'm going to tell you when it's time to go meet the crazy in-laws and the crazy family, which are the other franchisees. So I'm the resource to really understand how to buy any franchise. I'm the place people come to vent their frustration, to be honest about their fears and concerns. I help them with financing, figure out how you're going to finance your business. I help them go through the legal documents. I'm not an attorney, but I help them understand from a high level kind of how to position that franchise disclosure document and to use it as a tool that will aid your process rather than hinder your process. So that is my role. And as I said, it's entirely free. And people work with me for about 1 to 2 months.
So let me get this straight. Just want to recap this for our listeners. So working with you is free. If they decide to move forward with the franchise process, they don't then pay you. The company that they're franchising with pays you a commission or pays you your service fee or whatever that is, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so the way I'm looking at it, and tell me if I'm wrong here. So if I'm looking into getting into a franchise, I like the idea and I want to move forward with it. I can do this 100% on my own with nobody to help me. Nobody has any experience. I'm just going to wing it. Or I can work with you, who has 18 years experience, who has had success stories, who have seen people do the wrong things, and it still costs me the same.
Exactly, Chris. I couldn't have said it better myself. Thank you so much.
So, I mean, think about this for a second. It's like, let's say you want to get in shape. I'll use that example right there. And so you go to the gym and they say, you can go over there and work out and figure it out on your own. It's your first time ever in a gym, or you can come over here and you can get a personal trainer. It costs the same. I don't understand why anybody would not want to go down the path with working with a franchise coach like yourself. So, I mean, I always look at what's the opportunity, what's the cost. The cost really is on the franchise, and I understand why they're paying you. And tell me if I'm wrong here. The franchise is looking for high quality people because they want their businesses to succeed as well. So They know if they have a coach that's going to lead them in the right direction, they're going to get a higher quality candidate.
You got it. 100%. Yep. And when you work with someone like me, I mean, I have a great reputation for 18 years. I deliver high caliber people who are qualified, they're motivated, they know what questions to ask. So the franchisors see your name attached to Kim Daly and they are going to roll out the red carpet for you. You're not going to get like the junior salesperson. You're going to get like the director of franchise development because they know that you have a much higher chance of becoming a business owner if they can, show you their opportunity and build a great relationship with you.
So I want people to take the next step who are looking into franchising. So what is the best way to get in contact with you?
My website, thedailycoach.com. That's my last name, Daly. I have a library of videos that will debunk myths, that will educate you about fees, I have video interviews with franchisees that I place to tell their amazing life-changing stories that will inspire you, make you cry, that will make you feel like, wow, that person hopefully that person sounds just like me. Mm-hmm. I have blogs, newsletters, testimonials, hundreds of testimonials from years of helping people. So you can read more about my service. And then, of course, you can contact me right there and I will follow as soon as I love to respond within 24 hours if I can. Okay. So as soon as you send in an email, I will respond right back.
So there is a spot on your site that's very obvious for our listeners, because I'm going to put in the show notes a link right there, but it's very obvious where they can reach out, they can get in contact with you and get started.
Correct.
Okay, so guys, that's going to be moneypeach.com/session 144. That's moneypeach.com/session 144. Anything that Kim mentioned in this episode, the video she's talking about, her website, how to get in contact with her, the blogs, all the things that we talked about are going to be moneypeach.com/session 144. Okay, Kim, we're wrapping up here. I want to say thank you so much. I am just so, as you could tell, I'm so intrigued by all of this. That's why, we get a lot of great guests, but sometimes you get a guest where I'm like a little kid in a candy store. I get so intrigued and I want to ask you all these questions. So I appreciate you being such a good sport and let me probably cut you off a few too many times to ask you some questions, but I'm interested.
One of the best things I do, Chris, is blow the roof off of the ideas. So you mentioned in the pre-chat some of the, businesses you go to that are franchises, and I love to be the consultant that brings ideas to people that they have never heard of, never thought of, never knew that they could even be successful owning it. Like I have an insulation company that's one of my favorite. Like who knew I would get excited about insulation? I have an HVAC company. I have a trash business, a junk business. Like, and I mean, certainly I do the sexy things, the, med spas, the hair cutting places, the salon suites, all of those are great. But I do also love to find those for those people that really aren't seeking status. It's more about where's the best bang for my buck. And and they love service, reoccurring revenue, low fixed costs, all the things that really keep owners frustrated and up at night. I love to find those businesses that have really strong leadership and culture that can deliver in some of those spaces that people would never think of as a potential franchise.
So I think that's the perfect cliffhanger to end the episode is you named an insulation company, but you didn't actually name the name. So if you want to find out more, you need to go to Kim Daly's website. It's kimdaly.com.
It is thedailycoach.com.
The Daily Coach. If you type in Kim Daly in Google, guess what pops up? She pops up. So that's how I found you. All right. Thank you, Kim, so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate you. And if our listeners have any questions, I'm sure they're going to be reaching out to you. Again, all the links, all the show notes, all the videos, anything she mentioned, moneypeach.com/session 144. Thanks so much, Kim, for coming on.
Thank you so much, Chris. Have a great day.
And just like that, we wrap up another amazing episode of the Money Peach podcast. Thank you so much for listening. And if you love this show and you want to hear more like it, go ahead and take your big, beautiful thumb and stick it on the subscribe button so you'll be notified next week when we have another amazing episode. Also, I want to hear from you. Head on over to moneypeach.com/askpeach. You can actually send us a voice recording of a comment, question, anything you want, and we may stick it on the show, so be careful what you say. Thanks again for listening. We'll see you guys next week, same time, same place, with another amazing episode of the Money Peach podcast. Boom, da-ba-doom, boom, da-ba-doom.